Ruby, thank you so much for joining me on the Salon Owners Collective podcast. Very pleased to have you here.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here, Larissa. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
So let's start with this. Ruby, where are you in the world? What do you do? And how did you get to be doing it?
I am currently on the Gold Coast in Australia. And I say currently because I travel a lot, and me and my family, we are digital nomads. So we just hop and skip around the world and we move everywhere. So currently here on the Gold Coast. And I am a business coach that focuses on wealth, abundance, and energetics around those two areas. I've been doing this for 4 years, and it has been such a wildly wonderful ride. I could share so many things about it, but I have a feeling we're going to focus so deeply on all things money and wealth today, which I'm so equally excited about.
And so what brought you to the moment where you decided to be a money and wealth coach? Where did it all start?
It wasn't like I decided I was going to become a money and wealth coach. It was really an evolution along the way. But where I began was I was an accountant. So I had studied my way through university, found myself a corporate job, and stayed in corporate for 10 years. I was really climbing that corporate ladder and doing the things that I thought that's what I'm meant to be doing. You know, like I'm ticking all the boxes and I am growing my corporate career. And I just remember one day I was sitting in this beautiful office in Melbourne, which is where I was working at the time, overlooking the Paris end of Melbourne is what they called it. You know, all the trees, all the expensive designer shops were there. And I just thought to myself, this is not my life. This cannot be it. This cannot be the epitome of what success looks like. And I knew that I was beginning some other journey. I started to begin researching how else to earn some side income and how to create more freedom in my life. And the other main kind of trigger point for me was I'd taken all of my annual leave. I'm such a forever traveler and wanderluster. And I'd taken all of it, and I was getting all annoyed that I could only take X amount of time off and get paid for it. I'm like, I need to find myself a career where I can take as many holidays as I can, earn as much as I want to, and just live it up and have this life where I get to travel and discover the world. And that's really the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey. And I stepped into a side hustle era. So I did my day job and then had a little side project, which I was growing outside of work hours. And after a year and a half of doing that, I took the leap and I went all in as an online coach. And I was coaching people on their career, on also starting a side hustle. And it just started to move from one pillar to the next and one pivot to the next, until in 4 years, I've ended up at this place where all of my business is focused on energy and business and, you know, how to just live a really abundant life and become a wealthy woman.
I love that. That's really, really awesome. And one of the reasons that I was excited to have you on the podcast was I know that there are some blocks around that for hair and beauty salon owners, and we get in our own way, often around the relationship of money, that we have a relationship with money. I mean, it's funny even just to say that people have a relationship with money. You know, we don't have a relationship with our computer, or maybe we do. But I do think it's something that we need to talk about and we need to unpack, because how I see it as a coach for the hair and beauty industry is that there is often roadblock to progress and success, often starting at the point of the sales transaction with in the salon with clients. How do we price ourselves well? How do we charge properly? How do we stop discounting and charge what we're worth? What are your thoughts around this relationship with money and how it affects our business?
Gosh, I think the number one reason why we start telling ourselves we can't be more abundant than we can be. And I use abundance in the form of, you know, financial abundance, but also like time freedom and choice. So I'm really just using this as a word of what is it that makes you feel just as though you are the luckiest salon owner out there, and that you've got this incredible business and all the money is flowing in and you're booked out and referrals are coming through and you never have to look for new clients. Like, they're just coming in, and no matter where you're at in your journey, if you decide to raise your prices, more clients still come through that door. You know, like, that's abundance maybe to some of you. And listen, I've got lots of hair on my head. Like, it goes, if you can't see me, but it goes all halfway down my back. I love going to salons. Like, that is my place where I feel most abundant. You know, I go and get my hair blow dried once a week. I get balayage, I get the cut, everything. Like, and I've been to so many salons all around the world. And there's something about walking into a salon and you can feel the energy of the owner, the brand, the culture, and the people. There is just something about it. And like, there's some that you're like, okay, I'm only going to do a one visit here because it ain't feeling good. And there are others where it's just like, I don't care how much I have to pay for this experience. I love it. Like, I want to be here because it makes me feel as though I'm just overflowing in my own joy and happiness. So I wanted to kind of give you that background with my relationship with hair salons and money in abundance. But ultimately, as a salon owner, you have the freedom to charge whatever you want to charge. And the reason why you're probably not fully doing that is because you've got one eye on what somebody else is charging, or you've got, you know, another focus on what is right for the industry. Perhaps it even comes down to a level of worthiness, or maybe it's a level of you don't want to feel as though you're leaving people behind and you're not as accessible to others who really would love your services. There's so many complexities to money and finance, but ultimately it's your choice and your decision to get to a place where it feels really good to have a conversation about money and your rates and your services. And personally, you know, like, I've been to salons before and they have done the most incredible job on my locks. And then all of a sudden at the counter, I'm paying for it. And they're like, oh, you know, we'll just, we'll take a little bit off, or we'll discount this and that, whatever it is that they're apologizing for that day, like their appointments run over. I'm like, I don't want a discount. Like, that is not what I've asked for. But the owner or whoever it is, the manager, is just like, no, we'll have to discount you. I'm like, oh, there's always going to be different ways in which that manifests and shows up in the conversations you have with your clients and your customers. So I know that's sort of like a big, broad answer, but I wanted to set the scene for what we're speaking about today, because essentially it's going to come back to this. You have a choice with how you speak to money, how you invite it in, how you work with it, how you keep it, and how you choose to charge for your services.
Yeah. Do you think that it's attached ultimately to our worth, our personal worth, and where that's come from? Whoever knows, somewhere in our childhood. I mean, where does personal or self-worth come from in relationship?
It absolutely, yeah, it absolutely comes from, I mean, the majority of us will pick it up from somewhere in our childhood, wherever it is that you remember. Like, even just have a think, what was the first conversation you really were conscious of around money? And even if it wasn't a conversation, the energy or the feeling around it. And for most of us, it'll be about, no, put that toy down, we can't afford it. Or, you know, it's just something along the lines of, for me personally, I remember I was probably, I don't know, like 7 or 8. And my mum took me to the secondhand school uniform shop, because she's like, well, no, we can't afford to buy a new uniform. We have to buy it as secondhand. And I just remember feeling shame and embarrassment as a 7-year-old. And like, those sorts of feelings really started to build over the years, because we're not really told how to process that, are we? It's just like, deal with it. This is our situation, and this is how the family's going with the money, and you're just, you know, part of the family and you have to deal with it. And so it isn't until we become business owners and entrepreneurs that you go, oh my gosh, I've not seen this before. Or I realize, maybe you don't even realize like where it's come from until now, maybe, but you go, wow, that I sound like my mother. It's like,
oh yes.
It's just like, I can't believe I said those words. And you realize that maybe it's not even something you actually believe, but it's just been, you know, really ingrained in your family culture, or the way in which you've always looked at money and you've not given yourself an opportunity to look at it otherwise. So that's the first thing I would say. If it's worthiness and it's something that, you know, kind of it it's hit a note around, yeah, I don't know why I don't feel worthy. Or it's these conversations where maybe it's even your client saying, oh, you're too expensive. This salon's getting really expensive now and can't afford your services. How does that make you feel? That's the worthiness question. Because if someone said, wow, you're getting really expensive, and maybe it actually makes you feel kind of good about yourself because like, yeah, because I'm like stepping up and I'm owning what I'm worth. That's awesome. But, you know, for some of you, like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have raised my prices. Maybe I should give this person a discount, and have I made the wrong choice? That's also a worthiness conversation. So yeah, go back to where you first heard about the money. And I personally love processing all of these thoughts and feelings through journaling. You know, it's just, do you journal, Marissa?
No, I vacuum.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. It's my thinking time. So I have someone that helps me do some housekeeping, and I discovered one point that she'd come and she was doing all the things and I no longer needed to vacuum. And I realized that I don't journal, I don't do the writing, but I do the same thinking process, and it happens when I do the dishes and do the vacuuming. And then suddenly I wasn't doing it anymore, and I thought I need to change this. So I obsessively vacuum so I can process so I can process my inner deepest thoughts.
Oh, I love this so much. So however you process it, I do it through journaling, but I'll just think about, oh, that's so interesting. Where did that come from? And what does that mean? Is it my belief? Do I want to keep that belief? No, I don't. And then it's like taking the action behind it. What is it that you are led to do to change up that belief system? Because, you know, if you're not taking the action behind it, then there's no point really even complaining about the money stuff, because it'll just always remain as is.
I think the favorite thing that you said was to discover your trigger and how you react to it. So when somebody says, oh, your prices, because I've never thought about it like that before, Ruby, you know, do you shrink back in fear and worry that you've done the wrong thing and maybe that the client is right? Or do you step up and go, yeah, exactly, I am too expensive for you, and I'm stepping up in the world and I'm leveling up? And I've never thought about it like that before. And I think that's a really good test for you listening to go ahead and do, and to get a temperature gauge of where you're at.
And most times it's not actually even about you. It's your client going through their own worthiness journey of, oh yeah, I'm going to book this appointment. I'm going to get a fabulous new look. Then they get to the point where they have to pay for it and they question, oh, was I worthy of this? And then that gets projected back on you and the salon. And it's how you choose to receive that and how you choose to reflect that back to your client. Of course, you're worthy of it. Of course, I'm worthy of it and you're worthy of it. And that just creates this really beautiful vibe inside of any salon, I find. Like, oh my God, I still remember the first really fancy schmancy salon that I went to, because I was like, I'm worthy of this. I'm going to go and book myself in. And it was this salon in Sydney. I mean, it was just, you know what I'm going to, like, the prices were so high. I think I walked out of there with like a $600 bill, and it was, there wasn't a lot to really show for that. You know, like it wasn't like a big makeover or anything. Yeah, shiny hair, it was a great blow dry. And I just remember balking at that going, what have I done? You know, have I just wasted all of this money? The salon didn't care. They were like, oh, great, you know, fantastic. You had a fantastic time. And yes, we're worthy and we're worth this. So most times it's your client going through some stuff, and they might, you know, kind of give you a bit of a look, or you see it on their face, their shock or whatever it is. It's not up to you to take that on. Like, you can absolutely stand by what your prices are.
I just adore your suggestion that the response when you have like that, because often we'll shrink back and say, apologize or come up with ulterior sort of other options for them in the future. But how lovely when somebody gawks at the price to say, Jane, you're worth it.
Yes.
You're worth this. Like, you know, invest in yourself. You're worth it. I think that's really a beautiful response. Might just note that one down. Thank you.
Absolutely. And the same when I go to my nail salon, and, you know, she's a little bit up there in the price, but I go to her month on month, and she's like, you're so worth it. She's so cute. She's like, you're so worth it, girl. Go get it, girl. Like, and it's not like she's apologizing for being the most expensive nail salon in the area either. She's booked out.
She's embracing
it's so hard to get in. Yeah. And she owns it. And she makes you feel that way. So that's definitely something that I hope some of you do adopt and bring that on board.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about profitability, because if we can get our pricing right and we can charge properly and we've got our margins correct in the business, we can hopefully be profitable. And for some, super profitable. I work with some very profitable business owners. But I see that sometimes a little bit of maybe self-sabotage or a little bit of lack of worthiness comes in around profitability. How can we get away from not feeling so great about being profitable into actually stepping into, I'm profitable, I need to do something with my money to become wealthy?
Yes. I feel sometimes it really comes down to, who are you hanging out with? Like, what are the conversations that are going around? Do you have other, it might not even be salon owners, but other entrepreneurs that are successful, other career people that have a lot of excess in their life, a lot of financial overflow, financial abundance, that, you know, the conversation is elevated. It's less about, oh, better not talk about, you know, this, and, oh, I'm really struggling with my business. And you have a group of friends that you can speak to, and they expand your thoughts around what to do with that abundance, because you're no longer being asked to play in a certain sandpit that's like, oh, let's just try and make it work and survival. But it's more about, how do you thrive and how do you be an example in your industry, or, you know, show others what abundance actually looks like, and really taking the reins on, you know, not just like necessarily shouting that out from the rooftops, but going, yeah, I'm very profitable. I'm a very successful business owner and entrepreneur. And I want to show others how it's done in a way that is just so expansive. So come back to, who are you hanging out with? Because if you feel lonely in that conversation, or literally the only conversation you can have with on this topic is either your coach, your accountant, like it's time to get some higher vibrational friends, I feel.
Time to level up.
Because you can play in a different space. But, you know, back to profitability, the reason why you are at why I see a lot of also entrepreneurs that get there is because they've really held themselves in a place where they're not just here to fling about the money and hope that something's going to work. There's been a level of decision-making, clarity, sovereignty with the way they hold their money and energy around not just receiving it, because you can be really good at making money and really terrible at keeping it. The profitable ones are really great at making it, stabilizing their income, and being able to forecast what's coming in, and, you know, all those wonderful things that come with recurring revenue, or being able to know, like, in 6 months, this is where the salon should be, for example, and then knowing how you reinvest that back, and whether that's in your own personal growth or in the asset that you're growing, or the brand you might be choosing to start other businesses, for example. I think it's just so wonderful to actually carve out time every month or every quarter where you can just look at the money, properly look at it, look at where it's going, get comfortable with it. Because worthiness is one thing, but having that confidence around looking at your financials is a totally like new elevated vibe, because it's less about anxiety and more about, I know exactly where my business is heading, or, oh, like I've really gone a little wild with ordering way too much and I'm not selling as much. Then, you know, you get indicators of where you can pull back and where the levers are.
Yeah, I like that, because I think there is a little bit of a roadblock. I'll just put my head in the sand and not look at the money for a start. And the other thought that comes to my mind often, Ruby, is I've got this money now, I better hold on to it because it's not necessarily coming tomorrow.
Yes.
Do you know, like it's short-lived.
Yeah, rainy day energy.
Yeah, and not trusting that if I'm doing this level of business now, that's going to be maintained. And I think that stops us from doing smart things with our money. Would you agree? You know, because we're thinking about hoarding it down for today because tomorrow's going to be a famine.
Yeah, it's that whole thing where it's like, what's that saying? Hope for the, what's that hope? Oh gosh, I'm not.
Prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Something along those lines. Anyway, see, I told you I'm really terrible at quotes. I was just saying to Larissa before we went live, I'm just so bad at quotes. Anyway, but
you can use that one for your quote space.
And everyone's like rolling their eyes going, it's this, oh my God, it's this quote. You girls know what I mean. Okay. I definitely think that there is going to always be moments where you want to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success, of course. But also when those sort of like beliefs come in, or those thoughts come in to kind of go, oh, you should really hold back and don't do great things with it, or, save it for a rainy day. Just look at the evidence that perhaps up to this point in your business, you've seen quite the opposite. You've seen your business steadily growing, and there's lots of evidence that more clients and customers are coming, or recurring customers are showing up, that your sales have gone up with, all the other products that you're selling in your salon. And then that kind of just puts things at ease, where it's like, okay, this is an irrational thought. It's not real, because all the evidence around me at the moment is saying things are going up. If things aren't going up and they're stagnated, or maybe even you're noticing there's more drop-offs happening than usual, then take control of it. Comes back to, there's no point feeling unworthy of earning more or having more clients, because that's only going to attract more of that energy. And it's like that whole thing I was saying, when you walk into a salon and you know that something's up, or it doesn't feel quite right, or something's going on with the owner and everyone's a little bit stressed and on edge. That's what I mean. So you have a responsibility for your business and your own personal growth to get yourself out of that rut. And mostly it's getting in control of your financials and doing the inner work around, yes, I believe I love me a little woo-woo, in my life, but I truly believe that we are creators, that you can create anything you want in this world. And you have the power to do that through the form of, changing habits every day and deciding that something in your life gets to get better a little bit at a time, until you realize, hang on, it's been like a month or two since I've said this affirmation, or since I've decided to do things differently, and look how much things have changed.
Yeah. I'm a bit like you. I like to some do with the woo-woo.
Yes.
Or the woo-woo with the do. Like, it's really good to have the woo-woo, but you've got to do the do with the woo.
Yes.
So I love that, but you've got to be aware first, right? In order to take action. So I think that's really, really great. Okay. I've loved this. Speaking into being worthy and transferring that towards your client, even, I think, is such a gift. Making sure that the 5 people that you spend the most time with are ones that are elevating you and giving you ideas of what is next, and not putting your head in the sand, and actually looking at the numbers to make sure that, I guess what you were saying is that you're being in a position of power to make decisions. You be a data-driven business owner, look at the numbers and then decide what to do. Because I believe the numbers should tell you what you need to do in your business. Would you agree?
The numbers in your business definitely gives you an indication around direction. And it's not necessarily like, oh, the black and white is saying this and do this. But there's something else where, even if, let's say, the numbers don't indicate what you'd like it to indicate, it gives you a level of connection around, this is my desire for it, and I want it to look better, and I really hope that it starts to change soon. And that energy gives you direction to seek out more help, or to read more books, or to get more focused on a part of your business that you might not have for quite some time. That's what the numbers mean to me, where it's not like, oh gosh, I'm doing so badly here and therefore I need to shut down that part of my business. It's more of, that isn't going so well and I really want it to. So what do I need to do to feed more energy towards that part of my business? Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. So Ruby, what would be one thing that would help people recognize in themselves that they've got some block there, or that they're not doing that and not tuned into it.
Oh, you know what? Usually there are so many signs around us. There's so many little indicators, whatever it is that you are connected to. You know, some people like to see angel numbers, or some people, they get conversations every day, like do this, do this, do this, or, oh my God, you're so good at that. You should do that. You should offer this. And because you're so blocked, you don't hear it. You just like, or in one ear, out the other. I love that you offer this, you know, different type of service, and you should bring that in. But you're so focused on how you think you need to do business in order to, you know, whatever it is, like look a certain way because all the other salons are doing it this way. Just, you know, if you know that your shoulders are up and you feel tense every day because it's just heading towards a pathway where you feel out of alignment, or your business is just not as enjoyable as it used to be, for whatever reason, you've fallen a little bit more out of love with it, or maybe even notice your clients are different and they're not as joyful or easygoing as they used to be, that's always an indicator of the energy that you're pulling in and the vibration that you are attracting. So that's how you can recognize, hang on, wait, like there are actually some blocks around. And when you open your eyes to that and you see it, these signs, they'll suddenly hit home, and you'll hear what people are saying to you and going, oh, I've been trying to say this. Have you ever had a girlfriend go, I've been trying to say this to you for months and years? And then when you're finally open to it, it's like, okay. Or, you know, husbands or boyfriends, they cop it the worst, right? Because my husband, he'll say things to me, and then my girlfriend will say the exact same thing. He's like, are you kidding? I've been literally trying to tell you.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what it's like when you have an energetic block and the universe is literally going, are you kidding? Okay, we've been throwing all of the green lights at you and you just haven't seen it until now. But I think that's really how you recognize it. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. And then it's your choice of what are the next steps. What should I stop doing? What can I pause? What can I do more of? How can I invite more of that in? Where am I drawing the line with things like discounting? So it's like and even if you're saying things like the next client that comes in that asks for a discount, I don't care if it is like the most important person, you know, whatever, influencer or whoever it is, I'm going to say no. And that's how you start really changing the way in which you want to live your life and the way in which you want to invite more money and more abundance in.
Okay, I love that. It's that level of awareness and listening to the cues that are happening around you, and then taking it to, okay, well, what's the action that I'm going to do based on that? Even if you just choose one thing, like the next client that comes in and asks,
one thing
is no. Yeah. And then you start to build a repertoire of positive steps towards the ultimate goal. Yeah. I love that, because it gives us permission just to do one thing at a time and not overwhelmed with like, oh my God, I have to change everything inside of my business.
Exactly. And one thing at a time, one small change a day. You know, like the goal isn't to do the full 180. The goal is just to go, you know what? Today I made progress and I feel really good about that. Yeah. That your energy can get behind, because it doesn't feel so full on. You know, it's like, oh, you're going from unworthy to worthy. That it just doesn't. I wish it would work that way. I really do.
We'd all be millionaires if that was the case.
Yes. But if every day you kind of did something that you went, I'm really glad I did that. That was progress. I do feel a little bit more worthy of that. Thank you. Yes. Okay, cool. And even if it's just accepting a compliment, like sometimes I can just start that way of, oh my God, I love your hair today. Thank you. Rather than, this thing, I just threw it together or whatever. You know, it's just going, I'm going to actually receive that and say thank you and really feel that and go, my hair does look fabulous. Thank you. Yes. That small steps.
Okay. I love that, because I feel it feels doable. It's like, you know, the same applies to wanting to lose weight or go to the gym, and we don't do anything because it feels like this big thing that we need to do and we have to change our whole lives. And so we do nothing. And I like that you've really given us permission for the same in terms of turning around our business situation and our internal worthiness. And like you said, you know, leveling up the vibration of what's happening around us. So it feels lighter a little bit.
Like a big exhale, like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah. exactly. Because business can be hard sometimes, right? So you're a business owner, Ruby. What is, I kind of think you already know the answer. What is a quote or a mantra that often keeps you focused and centered? Welcome to use one you've talked about earlier today.
Yeah, I think in the theme of today's chat, I do actually have a quote which just keeps me so focused. And I don't know who it is, but this is the quote. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So if you think, and if we put this into the context of if you think you're not worthy, then you're right, because that's what your system wants to believe. Or you think you are worthy, you're right, because that's what you're starting to tether your beliefs towards. And there's times where I'm like sitting down at my laptop and I am trying to create something and I want to raise my prices. And then there's the voice that goes, don't raise your prices. Like no one's going to know what's going on here. You're going to lose clientele. I'm right about that because my energy isn't behind it. But as soon as I go, I'm ready. I'm ready to level up. I know that I have so much to offer. I've done so much training. I've had years of coaching under my belt and all this. It's like, I'm ready. And it's like, cool, I'm going to raise my prices and I know I'm right about it. So that I hope has helped some of you to also connect that to whatever it is that you're going through in your financial growth, abundance, business worthiness journey.
I love it. That's perfect. All right. What about a book or a podcast or something that you've, listened to or read recently that you think all business owners should get their hands on?
I'm such a spiritual podcasting gal. That's really where I get a lot of my goodies from. So there's one podcast that I love. If you are more on the spiritual side, you'll love her. Have you ever heard of Gala Darling?
I have not.
Oh, she's fabulous. She's New Zealand, Aussie, lives in America, has bright pink hair, is just a unicorn. And she teaches on emotional freedom technique and manifestation. And there's just such a lightness around her. Her aura is so beautiful. So if you're looking for a different type of connection to business on the more energetics and spiritual side, I definitely recommend Gala Darling. And her podcast is called Gala Loves Everything. And she drives like this rainbow foiled pink Lamborghini in Los Angeles. Like she's just that gal, there's just something about it.
That is so cool.
Cool. And if you also want to hop over to my podcast, I'm at Rituals. So the Rituals is spelt quite uniquely. It's RICHUALS. And I share all the things about business, finance, abundance, money, everything that we've covered in today's episode.
Amazing. I know I will put the links to both of those in the show notes of this episode. And rubylee.co is where we can find you and stalk you. What about your socials?
Yes. Come stalk me on Instagram more than the website. So that's really where I'm there daily. I love doing stories behind the scenes. So my handle is _RubyLee_. And yeah, let me know if you've listened to this, you loved it. Tag us both. It'd be so amazing to hear from all of you listeners.
Amazing. I really appreciate your time and your insights today, Ruby Lee.
Thank you so much, Larissa. I appreciate all of you as well and have a fabulous day.